Live in 5, 4.
Welcome back after recess. It's a different kind of recess than I remember from elementary school. I'm Judy Meyer, Vice Chairman of the Board, and conducting the meeting now, where we will go to the next agenda item, which is special business. Tab 1 action is canvass of the Board of Trustees election and oath of office. And I think Ron, as our Vice President of Resources, will make that happen.
Good evening, board members. Before you have tab 1, and it pretty much explains what I'm supposed to do. And I'll try to get through that as quickly as I can. I think this might be in your pack, but we follow the process that's outlined in the code under Section 33501 relative to the reporting of the election and the swearing in of new officers. And if it isn't in your packet, I have before me from Clifford T. Hayes, County Clerk, that canvasses the votes and says the abstract of the votes of North Idaho College trustee candidates as they appear in the election ballot on November 6th. Consolidated general election as shown by the record of the Board of Canvass filed in my office the 16th day of November. I won't read that. I have the candidates and the votes they received. I won't go through that, but let it be known that Clifford has certified the election results. And with that, I can now do the oath of office for the 2 board members, Judy as re-elected and Todd as a new board member. I guess since you're there, if you could stand and raise your right hand, I'll administer the oath. And after I say the first word, I, you can do your names, and then you'll go on and you can follow me. So I,
Judith Centemeyer,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support
the
Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and that I will faithfully discharge
the
duties of trustee of North Idaho College District to the best of my ability. And with that, I just need you to sign these, and I'll give it to my person. It won't be. Yeah, this is the
That's me.
official oath.
Okay.
Bring one, but it's not with me, right?
He doesn't want to use mine. It's got germs.
Thanks, Joe.
Cold.
And I would do is I'll get these attested to by, I have Carol here that does that for me, and we'll turn them in tomorrow. They're due at the office tomorrow. Thank you.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair? Judy.
Here I am.
May I offer congratulations to you and to Todd?
Thank you. Happily accepted. Welcome, Todd. I believe that completes tab 1, Ron. So then we're on to tab 2, which is election of board officers.
We're going to play the video from Ron.
Whoop. Yes, we have another board member that we cannot officially administer the oath of office today. Thank you, Joe. So, in fact, he has sent a video as his first round of introduction, and he'll be with us, I believe, at the next board meeting. So is that what you get to do next, Matt? Thank you.
Hello, my fellow board members. I'm sorry I'm not going to be with you tonight. I was looking forward to this evening ever since I ran. But today, as you're watching this video, I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa on a prior commitment on a business trip. I was looking forward to this first night together with you, but we'll have many more to come. I look forward to working with each one of you, and my commitment to you is that I will work very hard for the college, for its students in this community. It's very humbling to know that you've been elected, and I'm honored to be a part of this board, and I will do everything I can to make this a better board, a better college. Thank you, and have a great meeting. Goodbye.
Modern technology, thank you. Okay, now we're ready for tab 2, which was election of board officers. And it says Joe Dunlap. Do you elect the officers here, Joe?
No, I don't. I just prepared the tab for that.
Okie doke, which is tab 2. The background you have before you, board members. where we will be, in fact, choosing new board members. And I see there's one discussion item, which is the position of treasurer. And it looks like there are two ways we can do that: a vice chairman position, then there's a secretary and a treasurer, or the secretary and treasurer can be combined. Is there a pleasure from the board as to how they'd like to do that?
Well, Madam Chair?
Yep.
I've been serving as secretary. What does the treasurer really have to do? I think pretty much it's one and the same, and I think it's fine to be combined.
Are you volunteering to continue in that capacity?
Oh, boy. Well, I would certainly do that if nominated. Are you nominating me?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Madam Vice Chairman, if I may, I'll nominate Christie as Secretary Treasurer.
And in this case for treasurer, and then that would leave the position of secretary open.
No, he said secretary.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay, so in fact, you have suggested we do combine it. So your motion is we'll combine the position of treasurer and secretary, and you nominate Christie to do that.
Yes, ma'am, that's the
Good,
motion
thank
I
you.
make.
And then I'm not clear on protocol. Do we vote on this position and move on, or do we accept all the positions?
Each position you
Well, so here's your moment of glory, Christie. We all get to vote. The motion is before the board
Against me if you nominate.
for Christie to be our treasurer and secretary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good news,
Well,
Christie, you're
thank
secretary and
you.
treasurer. The next position we have open for nominations is for vice chair, or some people have had, for me at least, chair of the vice, which I currently am, and we need nominations for that position again.
Well, Madam Chair, I think you've done a fabulous job. I'd like to see you continue in that role. If you would please do us that honor, I'd like to nominate you.
Any other nominations? Any other discussion? Shall we go ahead for a vote on that one then, for Judy Meyer to be vice chair? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now we move on to nominations for chair of the board. And as soon as our candidates receive their instructions from our attorney, is there a nomination for chair of the board?
Yes, I would like to nominate Ken for position of chairman.
Thank you, Tom.
I would second that.
First and second and third, all righty. Those in favor of Ken being chair of our board, say aye.
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 Opposed? Good? Thank goodness. All righty, then, all those were carried unanimously. I don't believe there are any other things now that we need to do, because I've now conducted the meeting long enough to get a new chair. So, she said happily, how about if we trade spots, Ken, and let you continue as chair?
Well, I think we can congratulate Judy. That was one of the most efficient and short meetings that she's ever chaired, right? Yeah. So we'll move on with the rest of the agenda with the constituent reports. Julie? Oh, yeah, thanks.
Good evening, Dr. Dunlap, Chairman, Trustees, and guests. Thank you for having ASNIC here. I'm Julie Salinas, and I'm the Student Body President. ASNIC representatives are elected every spring by the students, and our goals are to improve student life and diversity and develop communication. Also, members from my board are here, so guys. All right, thank you.
Wish I had that power.
We have created a rec center committee that meets weekly, and we feel that a rec center is a huge need for our students. We plan on having a report for you in February. If you have any feedback on what you'd like to see in the report, we are open to suggestions. We are partnering with athletics and Stacy Hudson to fund a new mascot for Cecil Cardinal. The new mascot will look a little fiercer, and he will be a great addition to the campus. We have been holding a No Shave November contest, and students who upload their photos to the Facebook will compete for first, second, and third prizes based on likes. ASNIC and student events have been busy with the holiday season. St. ASNIC is in effect. Gifts are due by December 6th, and the ceremony with Santa is December 10th, and children must attend to receive their gifts. Student events are also hosting Arthur Christmas this Friday at the Sandpoint Center, November 30th at 4 p.m., Silver Valley Center Saturday, December 8th at 2 p.m., and NIC Campus December 1st at 2 p.m. in the Lake Coeur d'Alene room. Also, comedian Alexandra McHale will be performing next week, Thursday, December 6th at 8 p.m. We also want to thank Ron and Mick for your service on the Board of Trustees and hope to continue to see your support for the school. Thank you. So, for any feedback.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions? Julie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gary, you're up.
Good evening, Chairman, Board of Trustees, Mark, and Dr. Dunlap. I'm Gary Stark. I'm the Assistant Director of Facilities. I'm pretty much in charge of construction projects on campus as a project manager and also oversee all the facility departments. Chair of Staff Assembly, our organization is dedicated to promote the welfare of our members, increasing our professional effectiveness, actively participating in the college governance process, and openly communicating the essential nature of our contribution to the college. Staff Assembly provides a forum for the discussion of issues that are of interest to the membership, and the executive committee members are elected by the voting Staff Assembly membership, and for some reason they voted for me this year, and consists of 14 members. Vice Chair, Chair, past Chair, Secretary, 8 representatives, and 2 alternates on the College Senate. Our last meeting on November 8th, we had Steve Roberg from the Waste Management come and explain the single stream recycling. And just that one day he walked around campus and he noticed how we were doing, and he looked at all of our waste receptacles and said, we're oversized. So he lowered the receptacles, and if we keep improving, we'll save more money. But right now, he estimated that the savings would be $1,700 a month. So good work on everybody on that for recycling. ASNIC, St. ASNIC is going on right now, and tomorrow, if you didn't know, I don't know if it's been in the paper or not, but the NBA players in the area are going to come here and play our NIC coaches in a basketball game tomorrow from 12 to 1. And all you have to do to get in is bring some food for St. ASNIC. The NBA players are the Noon Basketball Association here at the college, so it's a lot of staff and faculty people playing basketball. You probably know some of the names. I mean, Adam Mortenson's putting it on. He's really excited. He's telling everybody about it. So if you want to come down for lunch tomorrow, bring some canned foods and help out St. ASNIC with the food. So that's my report. Any questions? All right.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Gary.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Dunlap, and honored guests. My name is Kathy O'Brien, and I'm the chair of the Faculty Assembly. And I teach in the Computer and Applications and Office Technology Department. And I'm a little bit of an anomaly on this campus because I teach in professional technical, but I also teach in the business division, which is a transfer or general studies side. So a lot of times you'll hear, us and them, but I don't feel that way because that's me. So we try really hard to work together on this campus. And as Faculty Assembly Chair, I have the honor and privilege to represent our faculty. And the purpose of the Faculty Assembly is really to facilitate faculty participation in what's going on in the college and to advance the welfare of our faculty. So we every month meet as a forum to discuss faculty matters, and also we make recommendations to the College Senate. We have a representative on the College Senate. We make recommendations to the Senate, to the board, and to the president for any items that come before us. So what are we doing these days? It's the end of the semester in 3 weeks. But who's counting? So we're busy. We're busy torturing our students with final exams and final projects, getting ready to do those thousands of grades that we do every semester that mean so much to everybody. In addition, we're getting ready for spring. We can't wait till the end of the semester to start getting ready for next semester. So we are preparing those syllabi, getting our Blackboard courses up and running, and making sure our textbooks are ordered and all those things that have to be done before we come back in January. We have faculty working on standing committees all over campus. A couple of ad hoc committees that we've been asked to serve on is the Faculty Handbook Committee, which is going to be very exciting because it's going to be more of a Wikipedia, so it's going to be a dynamic document that can be accessible by internal people through our portal, and that can be changed as things change. Because as we know in this day and age, anytime you print something, it's out of date pretty quickly. So that's pretty exciting. John Trumbold, one of our faculty members, is leading the charge on that. And one of the newest things that we've been asked to do is to serve on a group to look at, investigate MOOCs. Now, y'all know what MOOCs are, right? Okay. A MOOC, here's a new acronym for you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay.
MOOC, Massive Online Open Class. Or is it Massive Open Online Class? Anyway, it's one of those. And so they have very, very well thought of universities like Harvard, Brown, people like that, as well as community colleges, Seattle Central, Cascadia Community College, many, many colleges across the country, and private for-profit companies as well are offering free online college courses. One of them was fairly recently 100,000 students in one class. So this group is going to work with administration, with staff, and of course our faculty to look to see what this means to NIC. How do we look at these courses in terms of content? How do we look at them in terms of credit to our students, with the idea of making sure that our college continues to be affordable and accessible. So these are the types of things that we're doing. And that group has just been formed today, and we'll start meeting very soon through the leadership of Lita Burns. We have food drives all over campus, so faculty are throwing foods in those boxes, so come to our building and get food out of our boxes. At the last meeting, we did vote to send the RIF policy for a second reading to the Senate, and I think John's going to talk a little bit about that during his report. At our next meeting, Steve Tudor from the Copy Center is going to come and tell us about the new way to get copy jobs done on this campus, and we're also going to have a presentation from at least one, maybe two, maybe three VPs about campus safety. There are still some faculty who are interested in having that dialogue about campus safety responses. So we appreciate whoever is sitting at that table coming to our meeting next time. I want to give a couple of kudos to a couple of faculty members. Dave Van Eaton, who's a graphics design instructor, was chosen by Adobe from applicants from across the country to develop some marketing material for them. So it just shows you the quality of faculty and instructors we have at this campus. And I just got this today, and I hope I say it right. The RN program was ranked #1 in the nation out of over 1,800 programs all across all jurisdictions. And the ranking is for the percentage of graduates who passed the initial licensure examination from the National Council State Boards of Nursing, and 100% pass rate. So we are very, very proud of our nursing faculty, staff, and of course our students. And I want to invite board members to ask faculty if you're interested in visiting classrooms, to just, if you don't know who to ask, you can contact me, or just ask faculty if you want to come visit our classrooms, because we're always happy to have people. And if any of you wanted to come to a faculty assembly meeting at some point, we would be glad to have you as well. So that's what I have, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Any questions of Kathy? Good. Thank you very much. Nice report. John?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board, President Dunlap, and all of you lovely people. My name is John Totten, and I'm the coordinator of the Outdoor Pursuits program here at NIC, and also the chair of the College Senate. just to give you a little bit about what the College Senate is all about, the purpose of the College Senate is to facilitate the shared governance in the affairs of the college. The College Senate meets every month to conduct business on matters of concern to its various constituent organizations. The College Senate is the official voice of the college governance system. The Senate is the vehicle through which the constituent organizations of the college are able to participate in the decision-making process by making recommendations through the president to the Board of Trustees. The College Senate is made up of 8 faculty members, 8 staff members, and 3 students. We are focused as a group on the process of shared governance here at North Idaho College. We are very, very dedicated to gathering input from all the assemblies and everybody involved before we move anything forward to you. An example of that is the reduction in force policy, which I'm informed that you all have seen, and that has been worked through the Senate extensively, and in fact, over 3 years, it's been back and forth via legal counsel and so on and so forth, and back to us. And when we passed it for a second reading in November, there was a sigh of relief, I'll be honest, but also just a real sense of pride in the process. We got so much feedback and so much volunteer time, and everybody was just really pleased with what we produced and the buy-in. And I really look forward to continuing that process and holding that up here at NIC, and would also invite any of you who are interested in attending a meeting. Absolutely would love to have you to sit in if you're interested in just seeing how this goes on. Thanks.
Any questions of John? John, yes, did you have a question?
When do you meet?
We meet on the 3rd Thursday of every month, and we hold the 4th Thursday in reserve should we need more time if we have that much business.
Thank you. Let me address a comment to all of you. I want to thank you very much for the presentation, acquainting all of us with your function, how your organizations are constructed, although some of us who have been here for a while may know that or think we know it. Yeah. But I got to tell you, it's nice to have a refresher on that. And for Todd, I know it's a new thing that he will, I'm sure, appreciates having some kind of an introduction about the organization and how it's constructed. And you all did that very nicely. And I want to thank you.
Just have to promise not to give me a test on it.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business is Ron Dorn.
Or for later on, mine will be combined with that.
Sure. Then Lita, you're next.
Chairman Howard, members of the board, President Dunlap. Tonight I want to briefly report to you on the Complete College Idaho Conference that was held the last week of October in Boise. NIC was well represented by faculty and student services at this conference. And yesterday we held a debriefing for those who attended the conference to review what was learned from the conference and to really begin to talk about what the next steps are for North Idaho College. I'm pleased to be able to report to you that in the area of transforming remediation, which is one of the key components of Complete College Idaho, I believe that NIC faculty are leading the pack in that. The English department is going to trial an alternative pathway for students who test into remedial English courses. The plan is designed to evaluate the remediation needs of students on a more individual basis. I look forward to inviting Lloyd Duman, Chair of the English and Modern Languages Department, back at the end of the spring semester to be able to report to you on the results of this pilot study. I'm just anticipating that they're going to be very, very positive. In addition, the College Skills Division is exploring similar options that the English department is looking at to use for those who test into Remedial Math 015. And lastly, the Math Division is also investigating methods that we are currently using and other methods out there used to assess students' placement or students' math ability to ensure that we are placing students appropriately into math courses. And following that investigation, we will be coming up with some plans to address remedial math. Student services and instruction will be working together to establish goals related to Complete College Idaho. We plan to do this under the structure of our Enrollment Management Committee, since many of the outcomes identified for enrollment management align very, very closely with the Complete College Idaho outcomes and goals. I also want to bring you up to date on the work of the Accreditation Executive Committee and the review team. Input from the faculty and staff has been gathered to be incorporated into our self-study. In addition, efforts are being made to assist the campus community in understanding the new accreditation standards. Karen Ruppel, the coordinator of our accreditation team, with the help of Student Services and ASNIC, will be looking to hold student focus groups, because it's very important for us also to incorporate the voice of the students into the self-study. So as you can see, the goal really is to make sure that we present as broad a perspective as possible in this self-study as we present it to the accrediting body. In December and January, there will be public notices placed in all the community newspapers in North Idaho announcing the comprehensive evaluation that is scheduled for March 25th through the 27th. The announcement will also include an invitation for public comment. You, the board, will receive a draft of the self-study in December, and after you've had a chance to review it and make comments, a final draft will be prepared with the goal of having the self-study ready to be able to submit to the accrediting body in early February. I also just wanted to comment on all the clapping and the noise that you heard during our first session of the board. That was the gathering of Phi Theta Kappa. This evening was their induction ceremony for new members of Phi Theta Kappa, and this evening they inducted 22 members into this International Honor Society. So with that, I'll be open for questions.
Any questions for Lita? Thank you very much.
These Windows products, I'm not familiar with them.
Is Prezi a new title for our president?
I know the clock's running, and Graydon's looking at me and Ron's looking at me, so we're going to make this quick. I just
You didn't call timeout?
I did not call timeout. I should have. I'm going to call timeout a lot tomorrow during the basketball game, about every 12 seconds.
You're part of the NBA, are you?
I'm on the roster. That's as far as I'm going to go. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and President Dunlap and Barrister Lyons, thank you for your time this evening. I wanted to just give you a very brief look at some of the efforts that we're doing in the marketing department to really update and advance all the great work that's going on here. I want to give you kind of a current look at what we have, and this is probably fairly typical of some of the publications that you've seen over the last few years. It does have the North Idaho logo. It's got that really unique orange, purple, and green across the top. We've seen a lot of that. In all the work that we've done over the last few months to survey all sorts of demographics, everything that has come back to us has said, it's okay, but it doesn't do anything for me. We really looked at this and said, strategically, where do we need to go? We need new skills. We need something new in terms of how our look and how we present ourselves, both internally and externally. So these are some of the early versions that our staff has been working on to try to get some things to pop. We're going back to the future, kind of a traditional the cardinal red, the gray, the black. We make the black a little deeper, a little richer. This is actually a wrap that will go on the hand dryers in the restrooms. Okay, interesting. We market everywhere. Some of the information pieces that will go out, we'll try to put a little more life, a little more energy into our logo. This is one that we're pretty tickled with, that we're running this time of year, trying to capitalize obviously on the season. And this last one that I want to give you is one that we haven't run yet, but we're having debates on whether or not we ought to go with it, but we think it could be pretty effective. One of the things that has come back to us in our market surveys is that you guys are great. That's a little too small even for me to read. That it's really research-based. We're trying to get data in, and people are telling us, you know what, don't be so stuck up and stodgy. It's a fun place to go and learn. Have a little bit of life, a little bit of personality. We're doing focus groups, and it's very much demographic driven is what we're trying to update. So we want to give you kind of a look of some of the work that's been going on in the department and some of these efforts that you're going to see coming out over the next few weeks and months ahead. So Ron's given me the hook. So Mr. Chair, with that, I'd be happy to attempt any questions and answers for you.
Questions, Christy?
Well, yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Well, I love the marketing. I love the new cardinal. It's beautiful. But I actually had a question about the legislative update.
Oh,
are you on here for
we're going to get to that.
Doing that again?
I'm saving that one till
Okay.
later.
All right.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mark. Graydon?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, President Dunlap, and other guests. I should let you know, in addition to the NBA basketball game going on tomorrow, it was necessary to hire 2 highly qualified and large officials. And so myself and Alex Harris, who you may not recognize because he's in a tie tonight and is in the room, will be officiating that basketball game tomorrow. And the one change in the rules is that Mark Browning is allowed 10 fouls, in fact, over the course of the game. So we anticipate that Mark will be a force in that ball game. You heard from Vice President Burns about some of the activities that we've been working on collaboratively with the instructional division, including the Complete College Idaho conference that we attended as well and participated in the debriefing yesterday. We hosted a meeting of the Idaho Digital Learning Academy representatives from Boise, their CEO and other officers, including Brad, their local representative here, along with representatives of the school districts from Region 1 and then from North Idaho College. And it was a very constructive meeting in talking about partnerships as we deliver education to the different school districts and NIC and IDLA and those school districts being equal partners in that process. And it was very productive. I'm pleased to announce to you one of the decisions that we're getting ready to roll out and announce publicly soon, but in fact it's already taken effect, and that is NIC for a number of years has had a fee attached to the application for admission. And in fact, it's not selective admission, so paying that fee didn't make any difference in terms of being able to enroll here. In fact, the amount of revenue generated wasn't significant in terms of operation of the college, but in fact, we found that that was a barrier oftentimes for students to just open the door to consider to become a student at NIC. So with the approval of the President's Cabinet and the favor of prospective students, as of fall of 2013, North Idaho College will no longer have an application for admission free. So it's going to make us more accessible to those students wishing to enroll here. I'd like to, on behalf of Student Services, pass along our thanks to Mick and Ron, and also our welcome, of course, to Todd and Ron once he returns. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much, and I'd be glad to answer any questions as well.
Any questions, Judy?
On the application fee, is that one, our application is online, but it's not a common application amongst all 3 community colleges? It's site-specific?
It is, there is a statewide common application, but we don't have one that's in conjunction with the other two community colleges. Students have, while we've had an online application for admission for North Idaho College, they've not been able to pay online as well, so it eliminates that problem for us. They can apply online and no need to send a check or stop by with the money now.
So what I wanted to clarify was, glad the fee is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you commented about it, a common application, is it in fact a common application for the institutions, four-year institutions and community colleges?
4-year and 2-year, but they have different application fees. So even if they applied to various schools, they might have a different fee to whichever institutions they directed it. For North Idaho College, there won't be one.
So a little bit more of that dual enrollment. Folks might be enrolled at various post-secondary education programs.
Absolutely.
They wouldn't pay a fee to fill out the form for NIC.
That's correct.
But they might pay a fee for LCSC or U of I.
That's correct.
Next.
I should note, I think President Dunlap enjoyed this moment on the day that we made that decision. He was involved in a conference call with the presidents from the other institutions, and one of the topics that was on the agenda was the consideration for the other institutions to increase their application fee. And what Joe got to bring to the table that day was, go ahead, because we're eliminating ours.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Graydon, before you sit down, and maybe I should have addressed this question to Mark, but in other meetings, we've talked about our outreach to veterans, and there was a nice presentation at the last meeting, I think it was, about what you're doing. And I guess, is there any way we can measure whether or not our marketing and our outreach to veterans is working, bringing more of them in? And whoever needs to answer that.
Curly?
Mr. Chair, there is, and one of the things that we do in tracking back is with Curly and his staff in the Veterans Affairs, is they're asking where they heard about NIC and what, if anything, specifically drove them to pick up the phone or to call in. And we're just on the front end of starting to get some of that data back. But as the applications come in for spring, and especially for fall, we'll have a little better idea of what's working and what's not. I was looking at a note here from Nick Grenier, and he said that there is something called the VRAP. Here's another acronym for you: Veterans Retraining Assistance Program, which is part of the Vow to Hire Heroes Act that was passed in 2011. They've been working very closely, utilizing some of those funds that directly track the veterans as they come in.
And have we had an opportunity to engage with any veterans groups directly so we can market directly to them, whether they be government-sponsored or private groups?
Mr. Chair, yes, they had, as part of that VRAP benefit, they had on the Veterans Day luncheon that was held on campus. They, both Keisha and Curly said that was directly as a result of that direct interaction that they got through that program to be able to interact directly with veterans because of the outreach efforts, and they were able to get some feedback from them as a result.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I know that Curly's connected to the various communities out there and is reaching out all the time from off our campus and connecting with those groups as well. If I may also, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note that prior to deciding to discontinue our application fee, we cooperated with Sandpoint High School on a special promotion that was a part of the Albertson Foundation Move On grant. And they had a week that they were encouraging students to apply for admission to particularly North Idaho College. They asked for an exemption from our application fee for that promotion. Our admission staff went and joined them for that, and we increased the number of applications that we'd had previously from Sandpoint High School in a dramatic way. I can't tell you exactly the numbers, but everybody knew that that was a great success, and we played off of that, not having to pay the application fee, and we'll continue now to roll that out to all schools.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, and colleagues. First of all, I'd like to publicly welcome Todd Banducci to the board and extend the invitation that I have already extended to him to give him a complete tour of campus and sit down and answer any questions that he may have. And that also will be extended to Ron Nielsen when he gets back from his business trip. But welcome to North Idaho College and to the board. want to mention a couple initiatives we have going on. First of all, the President's Cabinet is in the process of finalizing a draft of an educational master plan. And the purpose of that plan is to compile data and to analyze trends, assist decision-making processes, and provide vision for NIC into the future that is consistent with our strategic plan and the accreditation core themes. And in that document, we will analyze things such as programmatic and facility needs, student services, fees, tuition, strategic funding strategies, or strategic funding for budget and capital construction projects, enrollment growth strategies that promote sustainable operations, and Complete College Idaho initiative. Now, the current impact of different trends on North Idaho College include things like national and regional economic conditions, technology and curriculum delivery modalities, national, state, and regional politics, public-private partnerships, for-profit institutions, state and local funding resources, and changing student demographics. And so through this document, we will do a fairly comprehensive analysis of those things impacting North Idaho College, then make recommendations that will serve as a roadmap for us over the next 5 years. And we will be finalizing that over the course of this next month. And then in January, we will hopefully make that document public that will guide us in our visioning and decision-making processes. On November 1st and 2nd, we had an accreditation visit to look at our medical assisting program. And it was for initial candidacy. We had 2 evaluators here, and the program went through that process in flying colors. And I would like to thank Cindy Pavel, who is the faculty member and program director, and also Christy Doyle, our dean for health professions and nursing, who pulled that together and made that so successful. It won't be until the accreditation board meets in March until we receive a final nod, but I am confident that based on the performance that we will do very well and achieve that accreditation. You'll be pleased to note that the NBA has an age limit, and so because of that, I won't be in that game tomorrow, but we'll be off fundraising with our foundation. And so the foundation has been doing some really excellent work. One of the initiatives is in Sandpoint, in our new facility, is to help put in place a science lab that will allow us to teach biology, chemistry, A&P, and other programs. And so we are in the process of trying to raise $100,000 in Sandpoint for that project. In addition, we have the annual campaign that is kicked off, and we are meeting with benefactors throughout our community to talk about that campaign that primarily raises funding for scholarships and also for restricted designations, which gives the foundation some freedom to apply towards other projects. I would like to invite everyone to attend the music holiday concert this weekend. It's being performed on 2 different times. On Saturday, there's a performance at 7:30 in the evening, and on Sunday, there's a performance at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Kathy O'Brien mentioned MOOCs and us beginning to analyze that, and so before asking others to consider their effectiveness, I made a commitment that I would enroll in one of those classes as well. And so my intent is to enroll in a chemistry class for one of those MOOCs to do an evaluation and get a sense of how effective it is, and then see what results Kathy and her team bring back as well. Let's see, a couple other events I just want to mention to you, and then we'll move on. On Friday, November 30th, the law enforcement graduation ceremony is at 1 p.m. in the Student Union Building, and that's our post academy that is operated out of our Workforce Training Center. And that has been a very effective and cost-effective operation for law enforcement agencies in the North Idaho counties, rather than sending individuals down to Boise to attend that academy. We have a legislative reception from 5 to 7 on November 29th in the Student Union. And then on Wednesday, December 5th, and Thursday, December 6th, we'll give you an opportunity to finish your Christmas shopping. NIC art students will be having their pottery sale, and in the NIC Ceramic Studio from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Boswell Hall. And then lastly, the fundraiser for our athletics is Thursday, December 6th. It's called Winter Carnival and Auction, and that's at the Best Western Coeur d'Alene Inn at 5:30 on December 6th. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks at this point, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the President?
Mr. Chair, just some comments. I wanted to make sure that I thanked you and Vice President Lita Burns for setting up that wonderful tour that we took of Philippe's program. I see Philippe in the back. I really enjoyed that, and of course we got to also tour the post facility, and I would certainly recommend it to Todd and to Ron to go tour those as well. It was really informative. And I'm wondering if, maybe that's the grand plan, is that every few months or so we see something else. That would really be enjoyable for all of us.
You bet. We can bring that to Celebrating Success and have Mike make a presentation on that.
Thinking it was a helpful tour to see the North Idaho version of the post program. The commencement on Friday, do any of the legislators get invited to that? One of the things we learned when we were touring was we need to help remind the legislators of how cost effective it is to have folks have this program provided here. And sometimes they seem to have forgotten as they go along for funding the program here. Yeah. Legislators coming.
Mr. Chair and Trustee Meyer, they are invited, and we will remind them again when they're here Thursday evening, captive in the Driftwood Room.
It would be their best interest to be paying attention to law enforcement, right?
I would agree, absolutely.
Any other questions? Mr. President, before you sit down, I want to ask you, are we going to get a report on your MOOCs chemistry score?
That's kind of iffy at this moment. But I needed to take a course so I could converse with my kids. I have a son that's a chemist, and I have a daughter who wants to go into molecular genetics, and it's hard for me to speak the same language with the both of them.
Thank you.
I want to see how they do the lab work on that chemistry class.
Next order of business is a second reading of the Head Start Service Plans and Policy. Beth Ann?
Thank you so much for allowing me to come tonight. I just wanted to make a quick comment about I was privileged tonight to be here and hear Kenny, who presented on the behalf of the iBest program, and he talked about hearing about the iBest program through our Head Start program. We give a lot of referrals and resources, but we don't often have that opportunity to hear about the fruits of our seeds we've planted. So that was just a privilege, and it made my day. I just want to make another quick announcement. Tomorrow morning we'll be sending out an e-invitation and an agenda for our December 7th Head Start Shared Governance Training, which we'll hold at our Harding Family Center here in Coeur d'Alene from 8:45 to 11:15, followed by a lunch and an invitation for anyone on the board or anybody else who might be interested to come and see how our Head Start Policy Council runs as well. So I would really encourage you, if you have the time, I know you have limited time and many responsibilities, but if you could make it to that, that would really be fabulous. And I'm here for the second reading of our Head Start Service Plans and Policy Council bylaws. And ready to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions of Beth Ann? We went through the plan the last meeting. We had our first reading. This is the second reading. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion, we accept the Head Start Service Plans and Policy Council bylaws.
Which are attached as Exhibits A through C in our minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Do I have a second to the motion?
Meyer seconds it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Now we have, excuse me, the NIC audit. Tony?
You made it.
Board Chair, board members, I'd like to present Tony Hackworth to present our audit this year. It's one of the few times, other than maybe budget time, that the people that work for me in the business office and work with me get to shine. It's a good report. I think you'll be happy with it, and I'm sure that Tony can answer most of the questions.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and President Dunlap. And thank you for allowing me to present the results of your financial statement audit for your fiscal year ending June 30th, 2012. I would also like to extend thanks to the North Idaho College staff and administration, especially Ron and Sarah and the rest of the business office for their assistance and their patience during this process, because we do take a lot of their time and take away a lot of their time from their day-to-day jobs. So I believe that all of you received a copy of the financial report and hopefully have had a chance to look through that. We also held an exit conference earlier this month with several board members and the president and the business office, Ron and Sarah. I have a brief presentation for you this evening. I will go over the results of the audit. I have put together a few financial highlights and then a few graphs and comments regarding fund balance. It seems there's always a lot of questions regarding that, so hopefully I can clarify some of those. So we will start. As a result of the audit, we issue 3 separate reports, 3 separate opinions. The first opinion or report is found at the very front of your reporting package, and that is our opinion over your financial statements as a whole, whether or not they are materially correct. And the opinion that we issued over this was an unqualified opinion. It's also known as a clean opinion. It's the best that you can do, and I would not expect any less from your staff and the systems that you have in place here. The second report is, since you are a governmental entity, we have to examine your internal controls over your financial reporting, and we also have to look at your compliance with laws and regulations as they relate to financial reporting. You have Mr. Lyons to keep you in line with other state statutes and laws and regulations, but during that process, we do have to make sure that you're filing the correct payroll reports, PERSI reports, things like that, and that you do have adequate internal control systems in place for the size of your entity. And the opinion that we issued on over that was also an unqualified clean opinion. And then the final report that we issue, since you expend over $500,000 in federal funds, quite a bit more than $500,000, you have to have what's called a single audit. The federal government requires that, and as part of that process, we identify major programs and test those programs. We do not test and look at every single federal program that you administer here. The programs that were specifically tested for specific federal compliance requirements this year were your Head Start programs, your Aging and Adult Service program, and then your financial aid program. And your financial aid program has to be audited every year. That is a mandate. And the opinion that we issued over that was also an unqualified clean opinion. Next, I just have a couple graphs just going over financial highlights this year. Does anybody have any questions regarding the reports that we issue or the opinions that we issue? So for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2012, you saw a 4% increase in gross tuition and fees revenue. However, when you net that with your scholarships, discounts, and allowances, you actually had a 6% decrease compared to the prior year in your net tuition and fees. You did have a 5% increase in property tax revenue. A lot of that, 2% of that was an increase in property taxes, but the rest of that increase was due to new roles and values. And then you also did have the Post Falls Urban Renewal District refund this year too. So, state appropriations, actually, if you compare last year to this year, they increased by 2.1 million, but 1.8 million of last year's, they decreased, sorry, by 2.1 million. Last year, you received a one-time allotment right at the end of the year. Actually, you didn't even get the money till after year end, but you had to record it in last year of 1.8 million. So if you pull that out and compare the regular state appropriation last year to this year, you actually had a decrease of about 300,000. And that's for the year ended June 30th, 2012. You did see a significant decrease this year compared to the prior year in your capital contributions. They decreased by 3.6 million or 74%. And that's mostly due to reduction in project funding from the Idaho Department of Public Works. So the prior year you had a big project, I think it was Cider Hall. This year you didn't have very much funding or projects, capital contributions from that entity. And then you did see a 9% increase in your general fund operating expenditures, and a big component of that is the spending of that $1.8 million allotment that the state provided to you at the end of last fiscal year. And then also you did hire some additional instructors to accommodate enrollment demand. I'm going to go into the fund balance. I have a few comments and a couple graphs there. Does anybody have any questions regarding financial highlights? Or okay. Okay. General fund, unrestricted, unreserved fund balance. Why is a fund balance important? One of the big reasons that it's important to you is that you don't receive consistent funding month to month, but you do have consistent expenditures. I mean, I don't think your teachers want to wait every quarter or semi-annually to be paid, so you need to have money in the bank so that you can continue operations while you're waiting for your property tax revenues that come in generally two large lump sums, and then your state funding does not come in on a month-to-month basis either. So that's an important reason to have a fund balance. It also can protect you from unnecessary borrowing if you need to do improvements or buy equipment, things of that sort. If you have fund balance, you can many times purchase that outright without having to borrow funds. Provide prudent resources to meet unexpected emergencies in times of recessions and protect against catastrophic events, so unanticipated emergent expenditures. Meets uncertainties of state and federal funding. You've seen over the last several years a reduction in state funding. So when you have fund balance, that can help to carry on and programs and things that those were funding. And if you do need to borrow to build a building or something like that, go out for bonds, that if you have a fund balance, a healthy fund balance, you can actually get a lower interest rate on that borrowing. And it helps ensure your future financial stability. So then the next question is, well, how much? And everybody, I get asked that question all the time, and there really is not a magic number. It's going to vary entity to entity based on your future needs, your current needs, and your funding sources and things like that. So the Government Finance Officers Association does put out a couple benchmarks. And these are minimums that they put out. And one of them is they recommend that your fund balance be no less than 5 to 15% of your annual operating budget, or 60 days of your expenditures, so no less than 2 months of your expenditures. And now we're going to look at where the college is. Now this is the fund balance of the college over the last 7 years. You can see in 2006 you were just barely over 2 million, and then today you're at about 12 million, or just under 12 million, sorry. And you can see the decrease from 11 to 12, and a lot of that had to do with, in 11 it bumped up because you had that $1.8 million that hit after your year end, but since the state awarded it for that year, you had to pull it back into revenue, and that's why it hit fund balance last year, and then this year you have spent some of that. And now if we look at where the college is, going back to those benchmarks, this graph shows you over the last 7 years where you have been as far as days expenditures and fund balance. Now, the minimum that the GFOA recommends is 2 months. They don't set a maximum, and based on the information that I just explained. But you can see that out of the last 7 years, you have only 3 times been at or just a little above the recommended minimum. In years 2006 through 2009, you were below that benchmark. And then this graph shows you as a percentage of your annual revenue where you've been over the last 7 years. And again, 4 out of the 7 you were under those benchmarks, and the last 3 years you've been 2010 right at that benchmark, and then the last 2 years a little over. And these again are recommended minimums. And with that, I would entertain any questions, comments.
Any questions? Judy?
To follow up on the audit, there was a letter to the college then with some ideas and observations of things we should take a look at doing differently, better?
Yes, we did issue, we did not have any findings,
Right.
Reportable findings, otherwise they would be within this packet. We do like to always, as we come across areas that we think, you guys might want to take a look at this and offer some recommendations. There's certainly not anything that you have to do or required to do, but just observations and recommendations based on our audit procedures. So, yes.
I was glad to have those. Go ahead.
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Todd?
One of the things, for example, I noticed in here, one of the observations was there were some concerns over the control of cash receipting. It talked about there was a recommendation in the college response, and it talked about the business office was developing some procedures and some training. Now, who would be overseeing that? Okay. Okay. And do you feel that we've adequately addressed that issue?
We have started the process, and we are in the process of addressing that issue. It's not going to be addressed at a single point in time, but we are working with each of the areas on campus and speaking with them one-on-one, ensuring that they understand what it takes to adequately support that needs.
Okay, I'm just curious. I'm new, so I don't know what the process is. If there's a company debit card that y'all are passing out and people are using it, and how you're controlling that.
People do fundraising.
Okay.
People do.
That's better.
I sit in the back for a reason. There's a lot of areas on campus, whether it be athletics, a children's center, that may do fundraising events. Our library collects coin for fines, for library fines. There's a lot of different reasons all over campus that many people take cash. What we're trying to do is educate them better and really target different areas to make sure that they understand what we expect from them, how they need to track it, provide receipts, how often they need to bring the cash to us, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Does that help?
No, it does. I mean, I'm guessing that those revenues, whether it be at the concession stand or fine fees or whatever, are going to be part of the revenue stream that's tallied up at some point as you meet that budget. And so I was just kind of curious how that was coming along, because I'd noticed that we had a response listed and a program being implemented. And I guess I have just a general question, I guess, for Tony and maybe for Ron. As I've read through this, I had a few questions. Dangerous, I have an economics degree and I'm in the financial industry. And so when I look at some of the things, and I just need, I'm not sure they're not problems, I just would like some clarification. And I see, like, I have a question like we just heard about scholarships. Well, it looks like they increased about 307,000 last year, if I'm reading that correctly. We had a land purchase for 732,000. We had a balance fund transfer of about 1.8 million. Looked like institutional support went up about 986,000, if I looked at that correctly. Looks like the benefits for Head Start might be costing us about 10% higher than some of the others. When I look to expand on some of that and get a little of the backstory on that, a little more detail, do I go to you for that, or do I go to Ron and his staff, or where do I seek that out?
Give us a call and we'd go over that. Most of that comes out of our office.
Okay. Okay.
Judy?
Just wanted to thank you for the audit, and thank you for lasting so long to give us the report. And then also, thank you for, as you describe it in your letter, opportunities to strengthen. I think that's part of what we count on you to do, is help us be as effective as we can at knowing what we're doing and always being cost effective. So thanks for the ideas.
And I'd like to echo and thank you, Tony, for sitting down one-on-one with board members and walking us through this. It's very helpful. And I know that Sarah and her staff and Ron worked very closely with you, and all of your reports were that you really thought they did a good job. So that's always good to hear, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to make sure, I wasn't trying to question, I'm kind of coming late into the game. I just examples of questions to know who would field those and
Absolutely,
who
absolutely.
my go-to guys, I guess, or gals to get more information, clarification.
I think that's great.
Any other questions? Since this is essentially a first reading of this budget, audit, excuse me. Thank you.
Don't do that.
Yeah, scared everybody, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Lots of attention.
Yeah. Since this is essentially the first reading of the audit, I don't know that there's a motion that's in order unless somebody wants to shorten the time and skip the first reading. In fact, is in light of the fact that Ron Nielsen isn't here, it may be appropriate for us to treat it as a first reading so he'd have an opportunity to see it.
I think he would appreciate that. I know he had the opportunity to review it while he had a lot of long airplane flights, so I think he was able to look at it, and I think he'd like to be able to participate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mark?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, before you is a first reading of an item to name what is commonly known as Fort Sherman Park here directly behind this building. There is a very exact distinction in the word naming versus renaming. As you, or most of you are well aware and is included in your materials, in 2010, the college and the Board of Trustees entered into a 9-point agreement with the Coeur d'Alene tribes. And part of that agreement stipulates that we will work to appropriately recognize through the naming of facilities, buildings, rooms, parks, and other areas on campus appropriately to recognize the Coeur d'Alene's heritage and presence that has been here for many countless generations before us. In your background materials, there is a copy of the 9-point agreement as well. This is a first reading that would name the park. We've gone back through the minutes from the Board of Trustees meetings and have not been able to locate an actual action item where a vote was taken to actually officially name that area Fort Sherman Park. It has assumed that name and has been commonly known and referred to, but there has never been, at least recorded in the minutes that we can find, any actual official board action that officially named it Fort Sherman Park. That's why the designation of naming versus renaming. We've had this twice before the College Senate, and I'd like to really publicly thank John for his leadership in helping us shepherd that through and to help the senators understand exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to help recognize the heritage that is here in this area. And in some of the background materials that I received, the historians, in talking with some of the elders, on the tribe describe this area where we literally are standing as the Washington, D.C. of the Coeur d'Alene Nation. That's how significant this area is. So for us to be able to name this area in the proper way, I think really helps get us in a position where we start to really live up to the agreements that we made in the 9-point agreement. At this point, it is a first reading, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or maybe some more background if you feel you need it at this point.
Judy?
In reading the discussion, you described the location as west of the Edminster Student Union Building.
That's was based on where, Madam Vice Chair, where my chair was sitting turned at the time. It's really more southwest or maybe even south. It's right behind here. So
Where the Art on the Green occurs?
that would be correct.
Yeah, most of us know it that way.
Is that the Art on the Green Park?
New name. Yep.
I'm gonna let that one go.
Follow-up question on that was, the concept is great. I think we're all for it. It would help me when you give us this name, if you would phonetically include a way to know how to pronounce it.
Madam Vice Chair and Mr. Chairman, this is going to be as close as I've been able to come, but it is Chiemquet. Is that close? Am I pretty close? I'm looking at Matt, John. I think that's pretty close to the way I said it at College Senate, so that's what we're going to go with. In working with Dr. Chris Meyer from the tribe,
Right.
that's fairly close to the way Chris pronounces it.
Any other questions? Christie?
Mark, I could be off on this, but I thought the 9-point agreement we had signed long before 2010.
Yeah.
It was before, like, I came on the board in 2004, and I think it was before my time.
The revisions to it and the adoption is what I found. The latest version of
see.
it was
Okay.
updated in 2010.
I just,
So
for
that's the
historical
version
purposes, I know that we've had a long-term.
It has
agreement.
been.
It's not just 2 years old.
And quite honestly, I think the tribes, in my assessment of it, have been very patient with us in terms of working on some of these things that we probably should have done quite some time ago.
Along the same lines, Christie, and we talked about this, Mark, was the date here of December, almost 2 years ago exactly, does talk about some things that have been updated as of December 2010 that have happened or were in the works. I think it'd be interesting if you could update since then, how many of those things in the works in some of these descriptions really happened, or where are they? Because other than what you've described here, we don't have any update, do we?
Madam Vice Chair and Mr. Chairman, my suspicion would be we'll go back and double check, but in our review of the minutes, we have not found a whole lot that's been done on it since 2010.
And would it necessarily be in the minutes? These were just things you all were going off to do that didn't happen to note a couple of them here where it sounded like something was going to happen or was in the process of happening. So either it stopped or it finished.
We can go back and review that and certainly get you a report on what's been done from 2010 to the present. But in terms of those things such as naming and those types of things that require board action, there haven't been any recorded.
Because we did the
Mr.
dining
Chair,
room.
I thought for certain, Mark, that when we did the remodel of Cider Hall,
Right.
there was renaming at that time of all the classrooms.
We have,
Student union.
we have named almost all of the buildings since 2010. You'll see as you go in all the buildings, the Native American name and the name we've had. So a lot of that has been done in the time that I've been here.
Yeah, that was last year.
That was last year. That happened last year.
There's some more.
There's some things that have been happening. We just haven't been able to find those in the minutes. So whether or not
I
they
see.
haven't been recorded or they're something that we haven't seen, but
Okay.
Isn't that the case with the student union building? We
Uh-huh.
identified a couple of names. That's
downstairs in
happened.
the dining room, yeah.
Yeah. Well, then it would feel like, maybe I'm slower than we want, but some things have been happening. And
Yeah.
there's no tracks I'd like to get some tracks for that. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Maybe a simple one for you. And the one that just jumped out at me was point 1, where goals 3 and 4 were to reference the students to the collection, and then goal 4 was to make NSC the library for the tribe's historical documents. And then as I look down, goal 3 is omitted, which would make sense when I read goal 4 that we don't have any tribal documents yet, so I guess there'd be nothing to reference the students to. Have we advanced on that? Do we have anything yet on that?
Mr. Chair and Trustee Banducci, I might defer to Lita, who's got a little bit of having that area under her.
Yeah, and I don't mean for a big, long answer. I was just curious if we've gotten some documents. That's interesting.
Yes, the documents, we do have documents, and the library has just undergone repainting and refurbishing, and we are getting ready to actually have that display set up within weeks or maybe within the next month or so. And we will actually have probably a ceremony to commemorate that.
Thinking about that too, when you had the tour of the library a couple weeks ago, we were talking about that. And my understanding was we were ready, we were now waiting for the tribe to complete the exhibit materials.
Some additional materials that they were getting to us. And in addition, we had some framing that needed to be done of documents and that sort of thing. So just finishing up all the final touches.
It's always easier to start things than it is sometimes to finish them. Yep, good, okay.
Any other questions? You can stay right there and give us your legislative update.
Around, thank you, sir.
Pass just some of these down the table. Got it.
President Dunlap, you'll get the package for Ron Nielsen's materials that he misses. Okay, so I won't set one aside for him. So that's his pile, okay.
I'm gonna give you my cold.
No worries, thank
I'm trying to be nice.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, as you're aware, tomorrow evening we'll hold our annual legislative reception, 5 to 7 in the Driftwood Bay room downstairs. The piece that you have before us is a little different approach this year. In participating in this event last year, and in some of the review with the legislative committee on campus, we wanted to take a little different approach to kind of freshen things up a little. In the past, we've typically done a trifold brochure with our legislative agenda, what we want to accomplish during the legislative session. In those years that we've done that, we have had specific items in code that we needed to change. We knew of specific proposed changes to bills that were coming that we wanted to either support or oppose. This year is much more of a general approach, and in our background homework that we've been doing with legislators during the off-season, including a couple of weeks ago with the North Idaho tour in Lewiston, really what we have determined to be our best course is let's continually try to educate our representatives and senators on not only the benefit of North Idaho College to this community and to the region, but in the overall aspect of what we are doing in terms of being collaborative with the other two schools, in what we are doing to move things forward. And essentially, we're trying to take a glass half full approach. We understand there's not a lot of money. We know that there's going to be $155 million of one-time money out of the state budget that has to be replaced right off the top. So budget writers and JFAC, that will be their first, that'll be about their third item that they'll have to deal with before we can even be even. The feeling amongst the legislators that I've talked with is that they feel like they treated higher ed pretty well last year. We always say thank you. We're appreciative of everything that we get, but the fact is that we can't wait for the state to catch up to their commitment that they were really in early 2002, 2003 funding levels right now. We can't wait for them to catch up to 2013. We got to go out and fix this and move forward. We have students and families and communities that are depending on us. So this piece in front of you was designed with the idea in mind that it's a snapshot of a front page. This is the news that's happening at North Idaho College. The economic impact study is a big piece that we'll work very hard during the session. We wanted to keep the idea of being collaborative in front of the lawmakers, and even though we know that the Permanent Building Fund Advisory Council did not recommend our project with Lewis Clark State College and the University of Idaho, that doesn't mean the need is going away. Certainly wanted to let them know about the new leadership, and President Dunlap's been very involved with a number of the legislators and certainly with JFAC, but keep that in front of them. We are working with the Association of Counties to try to find some sort of acceptable solution for everyone on the out-of-district tuition. Mick mentioned it during his comments. It is one of the big issues. We don't have a solution yet. We don't have a proposal that will get through the legislature that will help fix this challenge. But right now, roughly half the counties in the state of Idaho are upside down in their funds that they receive to reimburse community colleges for out-of-district tuition. That the formula has not been adjusted, or the amount, since 1982. So there's work that needs to be done there. We certainly wanted to highlight the good work that's being done with our aerospace folks, and then of course our community report. So this is the piece that we'll give to legislators at the reception tomorrow night. We'll do a mail drop right before the community college luncheon, which I believe is on Martin Luther King Day, and then Education Week, the last week of January. So this will be the piece that we'll also have our facts and figures that will be back from the printer by then. So we'll have all sorts of information to keep hitting them with throughout the session. So the only other thing I would add, Mr. Chair, just very briefly, because I think we're about to wrap up, is we were all very aware of the general election in the early part of November, but the real substantial election will take place on the 6th of December in Boise for leadership in both the House and Senate side, and we'll keep you apprised of what that will mean in terms of impact to education policy, but it's significant.
Thank you. Any other questions of Mark? Christine?
Mr. Chair, Mark, you said Education Week is the last week of January?
We believe that's traditionally when it is. The legislative calendar has not been set yet because they're waiting until leadership is.
Tentatively, though, that's when we should start making our plans?
I'd try to hold that week open if you could.
Okay. All right.
Judy?
Thinking out loud a minute about the funding that we're offering our legislators an opportunity to participate in, we need to remind, I guess, ourselves and the legislators that the professional technical money comes from a different source. And so how do we keep emphasizing our need for that?
I think that the best story we have to tell is student success, and it's what you saw here tonight with the students that are coming through the program. It's placement rates, and it's being responsive to what the industry and community is telling us they need. That funding formula, not the funding level, but the formula for PTE funding in the state of Idaho has not changed since the Eisenhower administration. Now, the new administrator at the Division of Professional Technical Education is another College of Southern Idaho export, which we're Todd Schwartz. I was going to say Christensen, that's somebody else. But he is keenly aware and is starting work to try to revise that funding formula.
As I recall, that was a JFAC allocation. JFAC separately does the professional technical.
That comes, yeah, because it is a mixed appropriation because it goes both into the
Right.
K-12 and the post-secondary, and it's actually 3 different ways because you have 2 four-year institutions in the college and university budget that also have professional technical.
So there's a bit of a feeding frenzy when that time comes?
There are always many places to put what limited funds are out there.
But what I'm thinking out that loud is those folks of our local legislators who are on JFAC, that's another aspect of visiting with them, is not just for the funding for our academic and ongoing programs, it's the need for additional funding from professional technical, which JFAC does, which then co-chair is, vice chair is Sean Keogh from Sandpoint, right? And is she
Yes.
going to be at our?
She's taking an early flight back tomorrow to try to make it here in time, so.
Yes.
One more question on funding. If I recall, again, last year, CWI was still funded out of the governor's budget. So anything in the wind about what's happening this year, of how we divide the state money?
I spoke with someone in the governor's office yesterday, and they are trying to find a solution. The solution would be is to put them in the community college budget and probably go to an FTE base.
And increase that budget.
That would be our recommendation. That's not where we're going to be this year. That's probably something that we'll look at for 14, but for this year, we'll probably be looking at the same. There'll be the community college appropriation that will be split between North Idaho College and CSI, and there'll be a separate appropriation for College of Western Idaho.
But to follow up on that, part of the, I think, genuine promise and effort from College of Western Idaho when they formed, and their board said, we don't want to do harm when we jump into the pool and have the same size pool now cover 3 colleges. And so the challenge here will be who's going to make the pool bigger to cover all 3. And I think, again, part of the effectiveness that we community colleges have had by working together will be to help legislators understand we're trying to be conscientious and watch on duplication. We're not duplicating services. We're being cost effective with technology and sharing some of the classes we teach, so that there's that ongoing education for a legislature that is now 1/3 new folk.
Roughly.
Although we may not have that many new legislators here, part of when we go to Boise will be to say, looky here, It's a different approach than happens amongst the four-year institutions, and it might as well make us poster children for how it can be done nicely.
I'll just tell you, Mr. Chairman, very quickly in summation, I was asked a question yesterday, what do we advocate for? And I respond, advocate for the college. Advocate for all the good things that we do, because we are very good stewards of the public money. We're always looking to get better. There's always places to improve. But we do a very good job with what is given to us by the taxpayers of Kootenai County, by our students, and by the state of Idaho. So advocate for the college, professional, technical included.
Good. Thank you. Any further, Todd?
One quick one. It's it may be unfair to say it this way, but is Senator Getty kind of one of the keys to this thing? Is he one of your go-to guys because of his position down there?
It is not hyperbole to say that Senator Getty is incredibly important to the future of education policy and funding in this state.
Been a good friend of the college.
And he's a very good friend of the college, and he's wicked smart. That's a technical term.
Do we anticipate his attendance tomorrow also?
Yes, we do. He's RSVP. Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mark. Our last item is the board chair report, and in keeping with my short time as board chair, I have no report.
Nor do I.
Could have thought of something.
Very succinct.
Adjourned.
Adjourned. Done.